Well, this is exciting. DJI has just released their first ever 360 camera, the Osmo 360, but it's coming into the market against some pretty stiff competition. As these guys, Insta360, well, they know a thing or two about 360 cameras, and their latest generation X5 is pretty refined at this point. Now, I've been testing both these cameras together for a little over a month now in a range of different scenarios, mounted to race cars, motocross bikes, vlogging, exploring with them, and even pushing them to their limits. And today, I want to share with you everything good and bad I've noticed when comparing them. Now, while this is a sponsored video, I'm going to tell you straight away, both these 360 cameras are excellent and have their own strengths and weaknesses in different areas. And it will really come down to what you intend to use them for when it comes to making a decision on which one to buy. And I aim to point out them pros and cons along with a ton of comparisons in today's video so that you can make that informed decision. Now, if you would like to find out more about the Osmo 360 or pick it up at any point, I've put a link in the description down below where you can do just that. Alright, let's start with arguably the most important factor when it comes to any camera, the image quality. Now, all these clips were captured with identical settings, and while both provide videos that look great, to my eye, the Osmo 360 does have a better image quality overall, and let me show you some examples to back that up. Firstly, there's much more detail in the shadows. Just take a look at the wheel on the back of this car, or even on the cliff faces in the background. The Osmo 360 shadows are much brighter with more detail, and it's the same story with the highlights. As with these clips, you can see a big difference in the amount of detail in the bright sky. If you take a look at the Osmo 360 footage, the sky is exposed properly, retaining its blue colour, not losing the clouds, and providing a much more true-to-life image. And while we're looking at this footage, you may have also noticed that just like with Insta360's camera, the Osmo 360 also automatically removes a selfie stick, giving you this floating camera effect that makes 360 cameras so versatile. Now, to be honest, the DJI Osmo 360's better image quality doesn't come as a surprise, as it has an all-new, square, 1/1.1 inch CMOS sensor designed specifically for 360 video compared to the smaller 1/1.28 inch sensor size on the X5. And because 360 lenses capture a circular image, there is less wasted space on this new square sensor compared to the X5's rectangle sensor, allowing for a higher pixel count and a 1-inch equivalent performance, which is why we see a better dynamic range when doing side-by-side comparisons. Now, in terms of resolutions, the Osmo 360 also ages out the X5, allowing up to 8K 50 FPS compared to a lower 8K 30 FPS on the X5. However, if you want to capture slow motion footage, the X5 does have its first advantage over the Osmo 360, as it allows up to 120 FPS when recording in 4K panoramic compared to a lower 4K 100 FPS with the DJI. Now, while this isn't a massive difference, with the Osmo 360 allowing you to slow your footage down by around 4 times, if you want the slowest footage possible, the X5 is the camera capable of doing that. Now, another reason why the footage from the Osmo 360 looks better is because it supports 10-bit color depth on all its color modes, compared to only 8-bit on the X5. And this extra color information means smoother gradients between colors, as well as much more flexibility for color grading afterwards, without worrying about degrading the image quality. If you're somebody who likes to push your color grades heavily, then the lack of 10-bit on the X5 might be a limitation. And speaking of color grading, both cameras support flat color profiles, D-Log-M on the DJI and I-Log on the Insta360. This desaturated, flat-looking image straight from the camera actually helps preserve highlights and shadows, giving you a greater dynamic range once you add that saturation and contrast back in post. However, the Osmo 360 does have another edge here, as D-Log-M is available all the way up to its full 8K resolution. In contrast, the X5's I-Log is limited to a maximum of 5.7K. So if you do want to use that flatter color profile, then you do need to sacrifice some resolution. Now, D-Log-M is also really beneficial if you own other DJI cameras, such as their Pocket 3 or their drones, or even their action cameras, as using the same D-Log-M profile on them, you can match the footage between the devices much easier to get a more consistent look. Now, both these cameras use electronic image stabilization called Flow State on the X5 and Rocksteady 3.0 on the Osmo 360 to smooth out any shakes or bumps if you're doing something more adventurous. And side by side, when you're looking at this footage, you can see both equally do a fantastic job with no noticeable difference between the two in terms of smoothness. And when it comes to taking photos with these cameras, while both allow you to capture beautiful 360-degree panoramic photos in JPEG or RAW, again, DJI comes out on top, allowing a max resolution of 120 megapixels compared to a lower resolution of 72 megapixels on the X5. But what if you intend to film in lower light situations, such as at nighttime? Well, here, the DJI once again pulls ahead. Now, both these cameras offer specific night recording modes, Pure Video on the X5 and Super Night on the Osmo 360, which increase noise reduction to deliver cleaner footage, so these are the modes you want to use in these situations. And while the nighttime performance of the X5 is pretty impressive, when you put it side by side with the new Osmo 360, it's clear who comes out on top. Just take a look at this clip here. Not only can you see less noise and more detail on the grass and trees, with those areas being quite blurry on the X5 footage, but the movement also contains quite a lot of jitters and blurriness, and honestly, I think the colours look less accurate compared to the Osmo 360. And while some of this is due to the larger sensor size, the Osmo 360 also has a slightly larger aperture of f1.9 compared to the X5's f2 aperture, and this also lets in more light, allowing for this better nighttime performance. So in general, in my testing, I think it's safe to say the Osmo 360 does have an overall better image quality compared to the still very impressive X5. So if ultimate image quality is what you're after, then the DJI Osmo 360 is the camera you want to go for. But image quality isn't everything. So what are the main differences between these two? And the first, and quite frankly extremely obvious, is the DJI Osmo 360's shape. It has more of a compact square design compared to the X5, and this compact shape shaves off some weight, with it coming in 17 grams lighter. And trust me, you wouldn't think this makes a difference, but when you're holding it for a long time on the end of a selfie stick, you do notice it. The second big difference, and a welcome one, is the fact the Osmo 360 comes with 105 gigabytes of usable internal storage compared to the X5, which has none. So if you head out for the day and forget a microSD card, it's something that happens to us all at least once, your day won't be ruined. And you can also expand this further by placing a microSD card in the slot within the battery compartment to get more storage. Now, speaking of batteries, something interesting with the new Osmo 360 is that its batteries are actually compatible with the Osmo Action series. So if you have an Action 5 Pro, for example, with additional batteries, these can be used in this new 360 camera. Very handy. Now, if you don't have additional batteries, that's something I always recommend picking up, and both cameras can be purchased with an additional multi-battery charging hub, although DJI's can charge 3 batteries at once compared to only 2 with Insta360's charging hub. Now, in terms of runtime, when filming at 8K 30 FPS, the Osmo 360 does marginally pip the X5 with a reported 100 minutes of continuous runtime compared to the X5's 93 minutes. The reality is, though, that in general usage, you won't be recording continuously for that long. You will be constantly starting and stopping every few minutes as you move around your location or change between different mounts or angles. Now, the third biggest difference, and you might have already noticed it, is the screen. Both cameras feature a super responsive touchscreen on the front, which can be used to change between the different modes, adjust camera settings, and move the 360 image around to preview what you are recording. And while the new Osmo 360 features an OLED screen compared to the X5's LCD screen, it is slightly smaller, and this combined with its flatter, wider orientation, in my opinion, makes the X5's screen ever so slightly better practically for previewing what you're recording. That extra verticality does make a difference, although both screens are nice and bright and clearly visible even in direct sunlight. In terms of mounting options, both cameras feature a 1/4-20 on the bottom, which will make them compatible with most mounts, but they also work with their respective magnetic quick release mounts, making it super quick and easy to move the camera around between different mounting options without having to screw or unscrew it each time. Okay, but now let's say you want to use these cameras to capture yourself doing something much more adventurous, where there is a real risk of the camera getting dropped, damaged, or even a stone flicking up and chipping it, for example. The reality is, these big lenses on these 360 cameras, they're really pretty sensitive. Any tiny mark or chip in them, because the image gets stretched very large to create the 360 panoramic video, will get amplified. So a tiny scratch or chip can end up putting a massive blemish in your footage. And because of this, both cameras come with a rubber lens cap that you should keep on at all times, especially when transporting them to avoid them getting damaged. But let's say the worst happens and you do damage one of them. Well, here there is a clear difference between these two cameras on how you get this repaired. With the X5, it has replaceable lenses. This means that you can quickly and easily swap out the broken lens for a new one on location using one of these replacement lens kits from Insta360 and using the supplied tool. It's a very straightforward process. On the other hand, with the OSMO 360, these lenses are not replaceable, but DJI is offering an affordable lens replacement service, where you send the camera back to them to have these fixed, and it actually comes in cheaper than the replacement lens kits from Insta360. And one benefit of sending it back to them for repair rather than changing it on location means you don't have to worry about dust or water getting inside the camera. You just let them do it for you. Now, it's important to point out this lens replacement service is separate from DJI Care Refresh. You don't need Care Refresh to make use of it, but if you are planning on filming more action-based activities with this camera, I still do highly recommend picking up Care Refresh. It's DJI's protection plan and covers you for accidental damage, water damage, and natural wear. Should you drop the camera bad enough to damage it more than just the lens, maybe the internals get broke too, then you simply send the broken one back and they will quickly ship you a replacement. I've been making use of Care Refresh on pretty much all my DJI drones over the years, and I've used it more times than I care to admit, and it's always a super quick, fast, and efficient process that gets you a replacement product back in your hands super quick. And if you would like to find out more about Care Refresh, I put a link in the description down below. Also, both DJI and Insta360 offer transparent lens protectors, which can be fitted over the top of these sensitive lenses to offer more protection. There's just one thing to be aware of though, these aren't ideal for all scenarios. For example, if you're using them underwater, they do tend to fog up. Now, speaking of underwater filming, both cameras are also waterproof without an additional case, with the OSMO 360 being capable of going to depths of 10 meters and the X5 slightly further down to 15 meters, making both these cameras great for water activities. Now, when it comes to audio, both cameras feature internal microphones, which you can see dotted around the cameras. And they both also feature different levels of wind noise reduction so that you can cut down on that background ambient noise. Although something that does work in the X5's favour is the fact it actually has a physical wind guard on the back of the camera, and this will help cut down further on that wind noise. So this might be a consideration if you want to use a camera like this to do something like motovlogging. Now, if you want the absolute best audio quality, especially if you're standing further away from the camera or you have it on a long selfie stick like I do, then you will want to use a wireless mic transmitter. And in that regard, both of these cameras pair wirelessly with their companion mic systems. So again, the OSMO 360 blends perfectly into the DJI ecosystem because if you have the Mic 2 or Mic Mini, you can connect it directly to the camera without needing to plug in a receiver. Or if you have the Insta360 X5, you can pair it wirelessly with the Insta360 Mic Air system. And this is how this transmitter sounds when using the X5. Now, let's compare the big one, price. And the DJI OSMO 360 comes in significantly cheaper at only $479 compared to the X5 starting point of $549. So there you have it. Now that we have looked at some of the image quality comparisons and talked about some of the strengths and weaknesses of each of these cameras, which camp are you in? Camp DJI with the OSMO 360 or camp Insta360 with the X5? And if you're planning to pick one up, which one are you going for? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, before you go, if you liked this video and you learned something new, please let me know by giving me the thumbs up and clicking that like button down below. And if you love all things 360 cameras, but also drones, gimbals, action cameras and more, and want to learn about the best settings to get up and running quickly, along with tips and tricks to help you get more cinematic videos and better looking images with your gear, then please consider clicking that subscribe button down below. And when you're down there, be sure to check the notification bell so that you will be alerted when my new videos are released. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to stick around and watch a few more now, Here's a few I personally recommend. I'll not keep you back any further. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you over there.